Which is better, isolate or concentrate protein? The answer may surprise you. I sometimes wonder if everybody is making the right choice, because let me tell you something. There are lots of other things in a protein formula that nobody ever talks about. If you're dieting to get results and you're not using steroids or growth hormone, you had better make sure that your choice of nutrients, specifically so if you're natural, the choices have to be the best possible. Now, if you are taking anabolic steroids, the steroids are combing over a lot of potential problems. People use drugs, okay? What they don't consider is what is the catalyst that's going to help these drugs even work. You've got to have food. Without food, which is the most important component, you can take all the drugs you want, nothing's going to happen. But why wouldn't you want the very best formula to get the very best progress if you're going to do that to your body? Not just that, but a whole food will actually be more beneficial for you whether you're taking performance enhancers or not. In my case, and I would like to think in the case of most of you, I'm talking to people who do not use performance enhancers, which means your food choices, especially your protein choices, it has to be number one. I've now been doing this for over 50 years, and that's how I've operated throughout my whole career. I have the advantage of experience, so I always revert back to the basics, and I want the most powerful formula. But I am just amazed that people just go off the taste of a whey protein and the price to get the results that you're after. When it comes to the body, I don't compromise. Even in endurance sports, which place such a great deal of emphasis on carbohydrates, long distance runners, they're missing out on the other side of it. Those carbohydrates will probably be better utilized if you had some protein that was mixed in there and they work together, because then carbohydrates can spare protein, but the protein also enhances the carbohydrates. When you think about this, let's go all the way to the beginning. What is protein and why do we need it? I've seen many people screw up, not because they weren't eating correctly, not because they didn't have discipline, not because they weren't training, but simply because they didn't track their protein. And when they lost the weight, they become discouraged because of all the muscle loss, which becomes obvious at the end of your diet. I've seen people bulking up and getting discouraged because when they get measured after they've finished gaining the size, they've realized they've just gotten fat. All that is due to the quickest way to screw up, not tracking the protein, because the protein doesn't only build muscle, it speeds up your basal metabolic rate by 30%. Carbohydrates only speed it up by 10%. Your metabolic rate is your body's calorie burning ability when you're sitting around doing nothing. It's called the basal metabolic rate. And everybody has a number attached to it. And don't be afraid of fats. Never forget the fats. However, anyone close to me who is coaching, the first thing we always say is the further away you get from where it originally came from, the weaker the food. In nutrition, anybody that's a trained dietitian or nutritionist knows this particular rule. With foods, you can either fortify them by adding whatever you need, or you're stripping the food. You'll get milk, you'll strip the fat out of it, and you've got skim milk. It is an inferior product because it is a step further away from where it originally came from. You've pretty much ripped everything out of it. The way a nutritionist or a dietitian should be looking at things is how much goodness has this food had stripped out of it. Isolate has had everything stripped from it, and all you've got is the bare protein, which people feel it is the best. When I have it, without fail, I'll have low blood sugar if it's isolate on its own. Most of you may not have experienced that, but my system is very sensitive, so I've got to make the right choices. Now, concentrate's a little bit different. The things they haven't taken into consideration, foods that are fortified. Fortified food means they've had something added to it which makes the food superior in quality, superior in protein efficiency ratio, superior digestion, superior absorption, superior results. Concentrate actually contains the best part of the protein when it comes to recovery from illness, to even recovering from a workout. When I include concentrate, the protein seems to work better for me. The benefit of concentrate, it's a step closer to where it originally came from. The concentrate contains lactoferrin, which isolate does not. When you're recovering or you're ill, that lactoferrin is the magic part about it, so you have a more complete food. People feel that concentrate is not pure, so they go for the isolate. That's the mistake that they're making, because when concentrate has been added, you're fortifying the protein. On top of that, if you add enzymes to help you digest whatever lactose is left in the concentrate, you're then having to deal with quite a powerful formula that's been fortified, not stripped. And people fall in love with their formulas. You know, there's one personal trainer, he goes, I love my isolate. And I said, yeah, no problem with that, but have you ever considered this? Now, he's in two minds. Okay, he will eventually come around when he tries the right formula. I'll admit it, I'm a supplement nut. So I always look for a formula that contains the best of both worlds, and always keeping in mind that you can either strip a product or fortify it. To me, the ideal protein powder has always been a blend of concentrate and isolate, which to me measured to get the best results. Most of the products you see on the shelves are targeting an economic situation of where they've put this much in there to make the price correct so they could put this much profit. This is something that you have to contend with, which means something can be of good quality, but I've also bought protein brands where you can tell it's been significantly downgraded, but hey, it still sells. Someone like me will notice that. It's very important to not just look at the paperwork that comes with these products, but how they're affecting you. Sometimes a product is put together just so it can be the best it could be without looking at whether you're using expensive products or inexpensive products. Sometimes there's a product made for simply getting good results. That's what I look in a protein powder. So when I go to a store to buy it, it's like if you're going to a car yard to get the very best car, you're no longer looking at the cost. You want that car that has all the features in it that you know will benefit you. That's what I look for in a protein formula. A protein blend of the right amount of concentrate and also the right amount of isolate, which could be more than one isolate, I have found gives me the very best results whether I'm trying to gain muscle or lose body fat. It's about making the best choice with the most fortified food available. But the amino acids play a really big role in holding on to lean muscle tissue, especially when you're dieting or you're trying to gain muscle. You need those 8 essential amino acids. You also need the 4 branch chain amino acids for recovery. Most good blends have enough of that in there. However, the thing that you've got to be looking at is it a whole food? Again, how many steps away is it from where it originally came from? Has it been fortified with the right steps to be as beneficial as possible for you? Even when you're ill and you're recovering from any sort of disease, it could be a cold or a flu, having the right food, the most complete food, and in the case of a protein powder, sometimes dietitians and nutritionists realize that people find it hard to eat. They've got to give you the very best formula in order for you to recover. A whole food that's had less stripped out of it, but more fortified, is the way to go for recovery, for building muscle, and for holding on to muscle while losing body fat. You have to be using the very best choices, especially when you're not using steroids or growth hormone. These choices have to be number one because you're now relying on supplements. The core component of getting those supplements to be beneficial for you is to make sure you're having other whole food. If you have too much food, your waistline is going to show it. If you're having the right amount of food and you're having maybe a couple of protein shakes, myself personally, the first week I start doing that, I'm likely to lose 1 or 2 inches off my stomach. But guess what? My muscles are feeling full. I could not ask for a better situation than that. But you also have to consider some people need calcium. This morning I got a telephone call from somebody who actually bought some protein and they wanted to know if it had calcium in it. And I said, well, look, if it doesn't say it on the label, it could be a labeling issue, but if it's got concentrate in it, it's pretty much telling you that it's got calcium in it, which a good protein blend should always have. If you're only dealing with isolate, there's a very, very good chance that it's had the majority of the potassium and calcium stripped out of it. Where if you've got a formula that has been fortified, you can rest assured that if you didn't strip the food, everyone knows that milk and any milk product is really high in calcium and also has potassium. This person needs the calcium. They cannot use pills or any other sort of calcium. It has to be from a direct source. So for them, not just the calcium, but the lactoferrin that's contained in the concentrate is the beneficial part that's going to help them recover. For them, it's beneficial, which means it'll also be beneficial for you. But if you're lactose intolerant, and you know what, even if you are lactose tolerant, you're going to get bloated. I would not be dealing with a protein powder if I drank it and it bloated me. People who are lactose intolerant, in that protein powder, you'd want to have the correct pharmaceutical grade enzymes that are going to have you digesting the product. If you've got the enzymes in there, you're not going to get that bloat. A protein blend that digests well, doesn't repeat on you, and all my amino acids, my branch chain amino acids, my essential amino acids, protein efficiency ratio happening. I've got the lactoferrin. My blood sugar level is where it is and actually tastes good. You look forward to it. I could not ask for any more. So I always live by the rule of what is the one thing that I can do that can make everything else unnecessary? And that is having this one product that's got everything in it. This is the one that's going to make everything else completely unnecessary. This is it. Intelligence Whey, the classic physique blend. You can find this on johnterilli.com. Click on the link below.